So we talk about data. The NIH, the funding body for science in the US, put about $45 billion in 2020 for research across everything from cancer, Alzheimer's, everything else. Female-specific research only got $4.5 billion to study anything that impacts women.
Welcome to a brand new episode of Pulse. Our next interview deals with one of the most overlooked problems in modern medicine, the massive funding gap in women's health research. Now, this is personal to me as a husband to a wife who severely suffered from a condition called endometriosis, something that to this day we know very little about as it has never been financially prioritized in healthcare. Our guest, Laura Minquini, is tirelessly fighting for this cause with her company Athena Bio, formerly known as Athena DAO. I really enjoyed talking to Laura and admired her spirit and groundedness to get her vital message across. Laura previously was a fashion journalist focused on forecasting trends for companies like LVMH and Puig. Sincerely hope you'll enjoy my interview with Laura Minquini. Yes, and it is a beautiful Thursday evening here in the UK. And I'm with a very special guest, actually one of my favorites in the world of decentralized science, the great Laura Minquini. Hi, Laura. How are you?
Hey, Aldo. Great to be here. Nice to be chatting with you again.
Yes, it's been a while, let me admit that, but I have been following you and your organization a lot on X. You are the founder, and there might be another word for it, but I will call you founder of Athena DAO. And this is a wonderful and great organization that I want to dive into. But I first want to compliment you as well on your last name, which I think is a beautiful last name. Do I say it correctly, Minquini? Or what?
Yes. The funny story about that is that it's kind of a bastardized last name.
Oh, it is?
Because my great-granddad was Italian, and when he arrived in Mexico, they didn't know how to spell it properly. So Mancini ended up being Minquini, but it worked out fine.
Oh, Mancini. Oh, wow, wow, wow.
Yes.
And Laura, you're based in Canada, correct?
I'm actually back in Mexico right
You're
now.
back
At
in
the
Mexico.
moment.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
See, so that's how long we haven't been in touch because,
Exactly.
okay, so you're in the studio from Mexico. Where exactly in Mexico?
I'm in the Yucatan area, which is the most southern part of Mexico.
And nice. And is
Yeah.
that where you're from? Where you
No, it's not where I'm from, but it's where I really liked it. I came here last year, really had a great time. I think I'm going to, from now on, given that we're a decentralized organization, I can work from anywhere.
Yeah.
In reality, you cannot just work from anywhere. There's something that I miss being in a big city where it's a biotech or academic hub, like for instance, London or San Francisco or Boston.
Yeah.
I'm actually only lived in San Francisco for a period of time, but what I was getting at is that being decentralized, I can work from anywhere. And I'm choosing to work from here, from Mexico right now, because it's a horrible, horrible weather in Canada and the Northern Hemisphere at the moment.
As it is in the UK, we haven't. So I'm in Aberdeen, and we're on some kind of a record for not having had any sun for over 20 days now.
Oh, wow. That's insane.
Already going to 25 to 30 days. And there's going
If
to
I
be
could only package some of what I have here and send it over.
Ooh, send it along, Laura. Send it along.
Yes.
We're in dire need of it. But let's dive in, because when I spoke to you a few years back, and this was in Taiwan, and we were at
Yes.
this great conference, the Sora Summit, I believe it was called. And I had the opportunity to interview then. And I was blown away kind of by what you're trying to do. Not only that, but also the fact that you and your organization need to be there in this world, I already think is ridiculous, but that is the way of the world. I think you do a way better job of explaining what it is that you do than I do. So can you please tell our listeners what Athena DAO does and what it stands for?
Athena DAO, it's an organization that's trying to fund translational research in women's health. What does translational mean? It's something that can come out of a lab and become a diagnostic, a therapeutic, a drug, or a treatment. It's very different from funding general questions of science because those require a lot of capital. That type of science is funded by philanthropists or governments. A clear example of this would be doing a longitudinal observational study for women that suffer polycystic ovarian syndrome. Something like that ranges on the 5 to 10, $20 million. And that kind of funding usually comes from philanthropy, governments, bodies that try to do fundamental research so that then science advances and then we can get to the translational side, which is where we come in. And the reason we're doing this is because most people don't know it, and I didn't know it until about 4 years ago, is that we do not fund a lot of the research that impacts female health. So when women go to doctors and they say, I have this problem, our hormones, this, that, the other, and the doctor says, I don't know, here's the pill, take it, it's going to help with your hormones to balance them. The only solution we've had for the past, I don't know, 50 years is giving women the pill. And I'm meaning the contraceptive pill.
Yeah.
And the reason that's the case is because doctors do not know. We just haven't done the research that impacts female health. And just so people understand in a way, I'm sure that this audience lacks data and is more technical. So if we talk about data, the NIH, the funding body for science in the US, put about $45 billion in 2020 for research across everything from cancer, Alzheimer's, everything else. Female-specific research only got $4.5 billion to study anything that impacts women. Even Alzheimer's, women have a higher predisposition than men, but we're still studying it more in men. And this makes a huge difference because there are cases where we know you cannot just reduce drug intake by 25% because women's bodies are 25% smaller, and then that's going to actually be the right dosage for a female. But there was a huge case in the 80s or 90s of women getting side effects that send them some to their deathbeds because the only thing they did is that calculate like body mass and say, this is the dosage for women. We did not study what we did to women, and we paid the consequences. So the fact that we're not actually studying some of these diseases specifically and how they impact female bodies because we're different, it's very bad. Something that would include ovaries, to me, says a lot of where we're at with female health. And to put it in context, if cars were at the same state that female-specific research is for our healthcare, we would be at the buggy cart era instead of like a Tesla.
Yeah.
So that contextualizes where we're at with things.
Yeah.
To me is shocking because I'm not a scientist myself. I came from the luxury industry. That was my very first career. I was a fashion editor and then went into the trend forecasting side of things. And I did these trend forecast packages and workshops for LVMH, which is the parent company for Louis Vuitton and a lot of the luxury companies around the world. And what shocked, I saw some of that data in terms of accessory purchases, market share, like who were buying all of these things. It's always women. When you think of it, department stores, when they came to be in the 1800s, 80% of the consumers were women. So women have made a lot of industries huge. They made a lot of men very wealthy.
Yeah.
And to me, the notion that we're not spending capital on female-specific health in the life sciences, it's shocking. It's just a big mistake that the industry is making. And the gap that we try to fill is from that government funding and the philanthropic one, the next stages, which goes from translational into company formation. So there's what we call like a valley of death that happens.
Yeah.
And it's a very well known in the biotech universe for drug discovery. I would say that women's health has its own valley of death, which is we don't even get to the part of company formation because we're not funding the translational research that can get us to the company formation part. So it's Athena DAO's mandate for the last 3 years since we formed in August 2022 has been to try to, in a vast ocean, do a couple of drops that could impact where the science is going and proving that if we put some capital at that stage, there could be a very high impact and opportunity.
Oh, there's so much to unpack, and thank you for doing this, first of all, but also for explaining it with such passion and such detail. I think one of the first things that came to mind is like, if there's money, people find it always interesting, right? You call it an industry. And then you also use that example of like, these are good consumers, but are they maybe less good consumers for specific health issues? Or because it's always an industry that drives it as much as it shouldn't be. I'm not with the industry on this. I think it's just the ethical and right thing to do to make sure that everyone's health is properly addressed. But I'm trying to understand the market mechanism here, that only 4.5 billion of the 45 billion goes to women. And so is that kind of another way of saying it's not interesting as a market? And if so, then why? Is
I've
that
been
like,
asked this many times, and I always say the diplomatic response, which is, I'm trying to figure out myself. But to be very militant in my response, I think it comes down to the fact that most of the decision makers are men in the end. So they do not relate to the problems because physically they're different. For a long time, when you think of it, menopause was something that was not discussed. It's the end of fertility, so it's unsexy. I remember even still, people, even 10 years ago, it was not something that you talked a lot about. You didn't see in we didn't have social media the way we do now, even 10 years ago. It's just accelerated so much, the proliferation of it, the influencer culture, all of that has really changed how we communicate about our problems or how much we communicate our problems.
yeah,
So we didn't have Instagram, TikTok 20 years ago, let's say, for women to be saying, I am going through this and I hate it. Somebody help me. Couples didn't discuss it because it was unsexy. Your grandma probably never talked to your mom about it. And your mom also did not talk too much about it to you. So it was a taboo to even talk about it. And it wasn't a taboo in science too, not because we're exploring more interesting subjects, is because it was uninteresting to the people who are calling the shots of what science is interesting and who gets the money.
yeah,
And in the end, money drives everything. And one of the reasons women's health it's like almost a dirty term in the life sciences, is because there's no proof of concept in the market as to how much money you can make. It would take, I think, one billionaire that has a lot of foresight to see and think there is a lot of money to be made. I've
yeah,
yet to meet that millionaire,
yeah,
or that person with money. I think a lot of times lately, I think maybe I went about this the wrong way and I should focus on just making a lot of money first in whatever industry that's very easy to make money on, and then put my money in women's health.
yeah,
Because it does take that inflection point or somebody who sees things 20, 50 years ahead. And I want to say something. Bernard Arnault, who is the chairman of LVMH, I always mention his case because he bought Dior. He came from a real estate family. He built an amazing portfolio from that. Already obviously had capital. But when he wanted to diversify to create his empire, he decided to buy Dior in the 1980s. In the 1980s, fashion was not the industry that it is today. He helped shape that industry. But he was a man, a white Caucasian man in his 40s. He did not wear dresses. He did not relate to the culture, but he had the foresight to say, I need to buy companies with history. And what companies have history? Fashion and luxury companies that cater to women. So he became, and he's been always oscillating between from being the richest man in the world to the top 5. He didn't have to be a woman to get it. And
yeah,
that's why I say it will take people with a lot of foresight to subscribe to this mission. Because you talk to pharma, there's like this very well-known pharma consulting company. There's a lot of VCs that came from that consulting company, and I'm not going to say it. And I met some of them now, even women that tell me, I got to make a business case for women's health in pharma. Before I was insulted, I was mad because I'm like, you're a woman. How could you not do that?
yeah,
Now I see what they mean in terms of the business case is not there because they think of it as just numbers. To
yeah,
them, they don't see humans.
yeah,
They don't see condition. They don't see anything. They just see numbers. And
yeah,
in terms of numbers, I understand why the business case is not there. When you think that that scientist that tries to form a company maybe gets the first round of funding of 500,000, but then the company has a potential of dying at Series A, which is the 5 million, because there's not going to be enough biotech investors that think that's a hot area. So even when the science is there, even when the potential pipeline is there, if the biggest funds in the world are saying, oh, because that fund is not putting money, I'm not putting it in. When you think of it, funding mechanisms are following mechanism. People
Yeah.
do what others do. What the
Yeah.
ringleader does is not about creating new markets. I mean, the people that create new markets are far in between.
Yeah.
Most people just follow trends and try to go along the number one ringleader. So when they think of will this person get funded at Series A? What happens when they come out of Series A into pharma? Will that pharmaceutical partner want to do the human clinical trials? I mean, when you think of the entire pipeline, I see how if you judge it by that, you can make the case. But what my thesis is that the people that are building this pipeline, it just needs to happen that inflection point of that capital with vision.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be a lot of money to be made.
I appreciate the situation is dire still, but would you say that it has improved over the last decade, that there is more awareness and that it is waking up a bit more as a market? Or do you still say, well, it's still in that valley of death?
I think it's improved by a lot. When we started 3 years ago, it was way less than now. There's a lot of talk right now. There's new funds being created. There's a lot of more philanthropic money that is talking women's health. There's a lot of more government money that is talking women's health. $100 million for women's health is like peanuts.
Yeah.
$5 million fund or 2 million, like it's peanuts compared to what we need. But the fact that it's already heading towards that direction, yeah, there is change.
Yeah.
I think a lot of investors, of people that have been in this space a long time now, they're talking about that immense need of companies to come out into M&As and Series A, B exits to pharma. There's a huge need in that. And I understand why they're saying that, because once you get a couple of those, then people are going to have more faith and confidence in the entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
And the reality is that there's not enough. I mean, my big argument is for hard assets and life sciences biotech.
Mhm.
There are unicorns in digital health and women's health. But to me, being able to see a doctor to prescribe me HRT or hormone replacement therapy is not the biggest win that we can go for. For me, app that like keeps me informed on where my period is or how I'm doing, it's also not necessarily the biggest win. For me, the biggest win would be that one day we get a drug to market that actually tackles some of the issues that we do need drugs for, like menopause, endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Just for context, endometriosis, it affects 1 in 10 women. And it's a painful, painful condition. Women that suffer endometriosis have these flare ups that send them to bed and have them incapacitated. We're talking about weeks of it. Imagine having the most horrible, what do you, when you have that horrible headache, what is it called?
Migraine.
Migraines,
Migraine.
I'm
Yeah.
spinning out.
Mhm.
When you have those horrible migraines, because men go through it, and actually women do get them more often than men, imagine having that migraine for 2 to 3 weeks. And some flare ups are maybe 3 days, but we're talking about horrible things that do not allow for women to lead normal lives.
Yeah.
1 in 10 women has that. And we have really poor ways of diagnosing it and even more horrible ways of treating it. For context, what if we told patients with cancer, use this app and track your symptoms? We'll find out the biomarkers and hopefully you can eat better or do more exercise. Imagine we treated cancer this way. This
Yeah.
is what we're doing for a lot of conditions that impact women only.
So it's not a solution. It's like a hoax. It's a
It's
placebo.
a placebo
Mm.
effect. It's a way of telling women the best you can do is to lead a healthy life, to try to be as healthy as possible. And to not devalue that, because there is a huge wellness industry. There is a huge placebo effect that makes people feel better. And I think there's its own merit to it, but it's still not getting to the underlying condition and much else really solving for us. I mean, we still don't have the solution for cancer, but there are a lot of cancers that now can be treated. We've saved a lot of lives because at least we have some solutions. And we
Yeah.
need to get to those solutions. And that has to do with drugs, not with an app.
Yeah.
And not to take away from some great apps that help women and some great businesses.
Yeah.
But we need to move past that.
Well, I want to say, Laura, you're preaching to the choir here, because my wife is 1 out of 10 who has severe endometriosis. And we've been through an enormous trajectory, also coping with infertility.
Yes.
We have a lovely 6-year-old daughter now, but that took us 8 years. And when my wife was diagnosed with endometriosis, I couldn't believe kind of the response that she get. There was no cure, or there was no kind of treatment or anything for it. I remember that we were at a doctor's office, and then she was told, and I was there as well. And then the male doctor told my wife that the only remedy for her to get cured of endometriosis is to make me a good meal. Which is then, so he will, once he's eaten enough, then, you will be able to conceive a child. And I'm like, what kind of and this is a very well-trained doctor on our private insurance that charges in the hundreds and hundreds of pounds per hour. And that's the cure. So my wife experienced, and me, of course, as her spouse, experienced firsthand how ridiculous this is, like how little people know about endometriosis, and also the fact that they just shrug and that's the end of the conversation, rather than saying, okay, here's where we're at, here's where research is going, here's what we're finding, here's what we're talking about. It's ridiculous that there are no options. And I know another advocate is Amy Schumer, because I know she coped with endometriosis as well. And she has this very funny sketch whereby she's talking about Viagra. And she says, oh, yeah, we've now got the chewables because, men they don't like to swallow the pill. So, here's to chew the Viagra. It's like, what have you done in women's research? Like endometriosis or infertility, kind of all those things. It's like, no, we're spending it all on Viagra chewables. That's where the market is, right? So, and she's right. I don't understand why this is not more urgent. And I think, more power to those that make this more urgent, because it's ridiculous that it is this way. And I can assure you those flare-ups are very real. Like my wife is.
Oh, I can imagine. I'm sorry. I mean, I can
Yeah.
imagine because I hear of them. My mom suffers of chronic pain.
Yeah.
Not from anything that like endometriosis or PCOS, but I can see how it changes your quality of life.
Yeah.
To be
Yeah.
in this constant pain.
Yeah.
It's very real. It inflames the body, which also decreases your longevity. I mean, it impacts everything, right?
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
a fortunate success story on being able to have had your daughter.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of women that success
Don't
story
even
did
get to
not
that. Yeah.
happen.
100%. Yeah.
And again, it's crazy because one of the translational assets that we funded through Athena DAO has had positive in vivo data, which is a huge milestone. We're doing the medchem and looking at toxicology now, but it's actually not one asset, it's multi-assets for different applications of the research we funded. And I'm jumping on like just introductory calls with huge funds where I tell them, this could be like the Viagra moment for women's health, in which if we have a small molecule or a drug for menopause, it could be as big or bigger.
Yeah.
And I swear, I just see like blank eyes. I don't see any excitement. I don't see any, wow, this is a huge opportunity. I don't know if they think, oh, because she's not a scientist or she's a woman, she's like talking out of her ass. Pardon if it's not proper to say it in a podcast.
No worries.
You see an X all these VCs talking about, we want to meet the pioneers. We want to meet the people thinking about the box, working on the biggest problems in the world, being super ambitious. And then you come and I'm like, I'm working on a small molecule that could be the first drug to treat menopause. Nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it has to, I don't know if I ask a white guy who's 22, who's coming out of Stanford to give that pitch. I don't know, maybe I need to have that experiment where he gives that pitch, see if it gets a different reaction. Because there's just a generic, we don't care.
Yeah.
But I think it has to do with the unit economics. I think it has to do with timing. If you're not pitching what VC, like a lot of VCs that I talk to, and not necessarily pitching, but I went to JPM in San Francisco this January, which is the biggest, I would say, biopharma conference in the world, or one of the most important ones that sets the tone for the year, where all the pharmaceutical companies of the world, VCs, biotechs do go to try, to do deals and set the tone of the conversation. If you're not talking AI or platforms, you're just like, they can't hear you, they don't hear anything else unless it's somebody that they know or a friend of a friend. It's like, I don't know, you're saying wah, wah, wah,
Yeah.
So it just takes, it's all about a confluence of different things.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest discoveries in the life sciences and biopharma have to do with timing, have to do with momentum, have to be in with the right time, with the right place. Viagra was not intended for what it ended up being, in all fairness.
Yeah.
So I do hope that the work that we're doing, because they say that to be at the right time, at the right moment, you need to keep working. And that's all we're doing. We keep going and clawing our way through one way or the other to be there at that inflection point, because we have 3 years of funding, of following, of building the network. There are other people now replicating our mechanism. And all I can say is that we have that advantage of 3 years. We have identified assets that are moving along into the next stages. So our mandate right now is to capitalize on that time advantage and keep going. And it's not easy, because it's literally, I could have chosen a million other industries I've met people that tried to go into women's health. They saw how hard it was and they're like, bye.
Yeah.
They're now in AI. They're now, because they realize there's a million ways more that I can make money and become a known person or something. And women's health is not it. So I see the ones that come like pass by and it's like, oh, this seems like something that's happening. And then they realize it's so hard. They're like, okay, next. But for us, a lot of the people that are still in Athena DAO, that have been there from the beginning and they will continue to be, it's a mission, and it's a decade-long mission and more. It's a lifetime mission.
Yeah, that would be my first response. Do not give up. You need to be vocal. You need to be shouting. You need to continue to fight, and also find those that want to fight with you, right? To get the right people on your side that want to understand, because it only takes one at the end of the day. It takes, as you said, one VC or one investor or one person that gets it, that appreciates your boldness and sees, okay, this is something that we can do and do together, and that belief, and then there you go, right? That's
Yeah, that's just who I'm looking for now. I think it's going to be a private individual who believes this has, there's a case. I know somebody that came before me, Dr. Jennifer Garrison. She was talking about reproductive longevity. It's funny because when I met her and I interviewed her, it was during the pandemic. I didn't realize that she had just started her organization, which was, that organization is already changed. She's, I believe, raised a lot of money now in the past 2 years because she dedicated herself to that. But when was the pandemic? 6 years ago already. This is insane. 6 years ago when we met and I interviewed her, and she's a person that really made me realize how menopause was a huge life changer for women, for her health. She had a philanthropist give her the seed money for her organization. So I do believe that what's going to take is that one big believer is going to be that one
Yeah.
person that does have the capital, believes in the vision, and realizes that the fact that I've plunged the last 3 years of my life on this 24/7, and that all that we've achieved and all that we could achieve with more capital, it just takes that one person.
Yeah.
It's a very different mandate for VCs to want to put capital on us because they see things on multiples. And this kind of thing requires capital that is willing to take a journey with us for the next decade.
Yeah. What's the next best thing after capital?
Execution. I've seen organizations that got millions and millions of dollars and got nothing done.
Yeah.
I have a lot of opinions of why that happens, but we've been very, very efficient with the little capital that we got.
Yeah.
And I think if you can have all the money in the world and still not get anything done. And there's a lot of proof of that out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you have capital and execution for a very specific mandate, then you're unstoppable. We're
Yeah.
already unstoppable without all the capital.
Yeah.
So imagine powering that with capital, having a very clear execution mandate. It's super important. And people throw around the word execution a lot. But in the end, the proof is in the pudding, right? How do you direct that capital to be efficient, to get to the next stages and to get to the next stages in the long term? Obviously, partnerships are crucial for us now. Our proof of concept has worked up to this stage. It's time to get it to the next stages where we partner with organizations that have more resources than us and to bring our lean and mean way of working. And by mean, I don't mean being mean to others, but lean and mean we don't stop. Is how
Yeah.
do we bring that small organization, very well run, with very specific mandate, coupled with a bigger organization that has a lot of roadblocks because they're bigger, but they have the capital, bring them together to actually push things forward faster. That's the next stage for us.
Yeah.
As much as you like to think we can do this alone, nobody can do anything alone. In the end, partnerships, strategic partnerships are crucial. Partnering with people that can complete the pipeline for you is also crucial. I'm not an expert of drug discovery, but I work with people who know this. We
Yeah.
are talking to the people that know how to do this.
Yeah.
Identifying those people and making them your allies is super important.
Yeah.
Because you cannot pretend that you can master it from A to Z. In
No.
the end, the one thing that we bring is the motivation, the drive, and figuring out who's doing the parts that we don't know how to do really well so that we bring our scientists and researchers to them to continue on.
That's so beautifully put. And I also like how you position yourself in this entire process, because you're mainly working on getting the funds for the scientists that actually realize, that actually execute on the projects, right? So how do you
Yeah.
select them?
The best thing that we built in Athena DAO, the DAO was intrinsically a governance experiment in the world of Web3. And I think the most beautiful thing that we built, or the most amazing thing, was not the governance, but the working group in the science and deal flow. Why? Because we got incredibly motivated experts or people that want to work in the field to contribute their time, their expertise, their passion to do this work. So to get molecular biologists at Harvard to want to work with you on a weekly, daily basis and do things to push this mission, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
To get future MDs, people in biotech, pharma to contribute their time and say, do this, do that, and say, okay, how do we push this forward, has been an incredible thing and the most valuable thing that we built. And to go back to how we do the due diligence is we have a method in which it goes through, we do an outbound to do a call for submissions on an area of research. We do a lay of the land on knowing who's working on it, do almost like what you would do the equivalent of a market study of where the science is. So when you do for that call of submissions, you have a very clear idea of who's doing what and where the next things have to go. From there, you get that, and the science and deal flow team evaluates according to a very specific evaluation method in which we're looking for IP, licensing rights, or anything that can give us. We're kind of an evergreen fund in the sense that the idea is supposed to be that these science that we fund is not a granting mechanism, but a novel funding mechanism. If something comes out of it, we potentially get a return and then can start the process all over again and fund more science. So that's why we look for rights to that translational science, because those rights can give us potentially a return, and a return means more science funded. Once they score it, it goes through a 3-week evaluation process where you go through different scoring rounds. We pick top 5. Those top 5 go to senior review, which is outside of us. We're not the final board. We send it to experts in the field, whether it is that area of research of people that have developed companies in that area, or in pharma and biotech and investors. Once that happens, the top 3 is the ones that get voted for funding. So it's a kind of a very rigorous method. It doesn't take as long as governments do, because governments, when you send for a grant, it takes almost a year to work on them and another year to get this yes and then the funding, right? So it's, mind you, those grants are for millions and millions of dollars. So the time spent on it makes sense because scientists are going to get their work funded for 3 years. I get it. It's going to take 6 months to write the grant because it's 3 years of work, the capital that you're going to get. For us, it's more of, our checks have been from $50,000 to $150,000, and with milestones, very specific milestones as to where the science has to get. And if it doesn't get there, well, why? Let's call it a day. And if it gets there, we can get to next stages. I call it an engine. Is we devise a very specific method of doing things, and the team now almost works like a machine because everybody knows what they're doing. I think the one thing that's been lacking more now is the funds rather than the opportunities.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons that we're branching out into partnerships. We're raising now an equity vehicle to be able to fund the next stages of translation of the science, because people love our concept, but some of them have hesitations about it being token, about it being crypto. The other hesitation is that a lot of private investors, or even, let's say, vent funds, they have very specific areas that they could fund. And once they get confused with what this is, it's like it goes out of their pattern matching, then they're like, they don't know what to do. So you have to figure out how to package things to people so they understand it and they see, okay, this is something that's of interest to me.
I appreciate it's been a journey. Also, we were both born in DeSci, decentralized science, which indeed uses tokens or crypto to, in our case, finance scientific endeavors, right? And we started from the frustration that in the normal world, scientists are underpaid and undervalued across the board, and that crypto, in essence, has a way to disrupt this. So it's all of a sudden a way to bring money to those people who actually need it. I appreciate the climate sometimes is different, and that this world of crypto isn't always as transparent and as accountable as we would like, and that we're also to a certain extent the victim of that, because I'm convinced that your initiative is doing the right thing and is only trying to do that. And I can also vouch as the CEO of Genomes.io that we're trying to do the same. But that's not always the way the world works, right? So yeah, there are goods and bads here. There's no, I'm not trying to push this to a certain direction, not at all. I'm just sharing that as an observation, as I'm sure you experienced as well. Yeah.
I just want to, say that I am very grateful that we did this in this mechanism when we started.
Yeah.
It was a different market. It was a different time. And what people that are not in Web3 realize is that 1 year in crypto is a decade in any other industry.
Yeah.
It's like literally feels like a decade, 30 decades ago that we started this.
Yeah.
The market never sleeps. The ups and downs are insane because people are trying to do experiments in governance and company formation. It can all appear very transparent and also very not transparent at all.
Yeah.
When we started Athena DAO, I was told do a fund, do a foundation, do anything but crypto. I thought crypto was interesting because you cut the intermediary.
Mhm.
I thought if women understood that with $100 they can put money into real science instead of buying a supplement that is placebo and does not much for you unless you're eating perfectly, sleeping perfectly, like that supplement is not going to do much if you're not having already a particular lifestyle. But what I miscalculated is that crypto is too far removed from something that they can get into. And I realize that now. It takes 10 moves before you can even like have a wallet
Yeah.
or like have have like Ethereum in your wallet.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so complicated. We haven't hit that inflection point for a consumer to feel confident.
It's not
Then you
mainstream.
have the media, every movie, every show. If you happen to once in a while watch a movie or a show and there's a criminal, they're using crypto.
Yeah.
So they're doing a really good job at like singing it even worse than it is. Most people don't realize that already Fortune 500 companies are using the blockchain as technology for their backend. Like
Yeah.
that's already out there. The president is using crypto. Everyone is, it's not as complicated as it is, but it has a bad reputation. That bad reputation aside, I thought that this was a way to let women have a say in where science was going, be active participants, and have an active role in it. But crypto and being instead of becoming something that made them want to come on board, for some of them, it was just way too complicated. It's not something they could relate to. It felt like too foreign. So we couldn't really cut the intermediary and have women directly access the way we wanted it to access. In the end, it's also a concentrated effort from the ecosystem that needs to. We didn't want to build something that was, just women only. Some of our best and active participants and funders have been men. But I think that inflection point would come from women. It would come from what I said was why I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
Is because women have that capital. They are decision makers. They
Yeah.
are decision makers in healthcare at home. It's just we're not actually going direct to them with the life sciences yet. And that's still a challenge for us.
Yeah.
Because having the crypto layer as the intermediary to access us became a bit of a hindrance for us. And if you wanted to put a wallet, now people are putting wallets to access, like your credit card. You can access with your credit card this ecosystem. Like, let's be real, that's not the blockchain anymore. That's literally going back to Web 2.
Yeah.
And if you started doing that, then you were told you were not a purist. But in my way, it's like you need to figure out what's more important, being a purist or accessing directly the market that you want to access.
Yeah.
So again, we were not a direct-to-consumer product because we're dealing with the life sciences, with hard scientific assets. And we also found ourselves in a way where women haven't, and I'm not saying women, everybody has an easier time buying a supplement than they have relating to science. Wellness influencers do so well because they can sell you $100 course on how to manage on your menopause. And we as humans need to feel like we are doing an action to make things better. So the action is take this course, give me $100 and I'm going to manage your menopause, or give me $100 to take the supplement and you're going to manage your menopause. Mm-hmm. Telling them, give me $100 and we're going to put it in science. And one day this is going to be a drug is it's asking too much.
You need to pick your battles. Make sure you get the message across. And your primary message is women's health, and for people to get that right and to put the proper billions or millions in there that it so deserves, right? And if you're held back by a tool that's not your main message or your main vehicle to get there, then you're very right to say, no, let's stick with the message and let's make it easier. Let's make that vehicle easier, whatever it takes, right? So embrace multiple options, or, I that's what we are doing as well.
More than the message, I would say, our mission, which is to they get a drug to market from translation to making sure that thing became something tangible.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when you do the DAO structure, you're trying to do two markets. You're trying to do the science, which is almost considered a B2B, because you're dealing with researchers and industry. And when you have your token holders, you're doing B2C, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're trying to, and the thing that we succeeded really well was the B2B.
Yeah.
Because you have to choose your battles. And if I had 2 million more, maybe I can also put somebody in doing the B2C, but we don't. So you have to choose what you did really well.
100%.
And we actually have probably the second biggest community in DeSci, in decentralized science. We have a very successful newsletter, which I know there are startups that have sold and like a community that big as an exit. Our newsletter is very successful because it has industry women not in industry. And when I say industry, I don't say DeSci or crypto. Women in women's health and femtech. So we transcended our crypto start into another area, which is the area that we are tackling, women's health, femtech, that world. But we need to choose the battle of what our mission is. And though our experiment and cutting the intermediary has to take a back step because we're doing so well on the other part, that we cannot make trying to onboard women into crypto our main mission right now.
Yeah.
It's not where we're going to win. And eventually you have to choose a path that you can win.
I think you said it there. It's not women into crypto, it's women into women's health, right?
Exactly.
And what you're
Exactly. That's it.
women into crypto, into women's health. That's what that's not.
Yeah. You're like putting another intermediary and you're like, no.
No, not another. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Well,
Not another step.
yeah. Laura, I have the feeling we can talk for hours. But I'm conscious of time and your time and all the important work you do. Before I ask my two very last questions, I just was curious, what are you most proud of? And when did you start Athena DAO? 2022? No.
August 2022, yes.
August 2020. So what are you most proud of in these years that you've been working on?
I think the thing that makes me sometimes like pinch myself is that I get to talk to and work with and collaborate, and I consider friends people that are changing how reproductive technologies are going to be in the future. You know, I'm into sci-fi like most people that are into these new technologies. And I keep thinking of the Bene Gesserit, which is our plants are measured in centuries, I think is the say, or like, what we're doing right now, the people that we work with that are collaborating with us are some of the people that in the future, the scientists we're going to look back at and say they X, Y, Z is why we have this, that, or the other. So to me, I find that incredible. Also, our working group, the core team, these people that come back and do this because they're so driven by the mission. They're not doing it for the money. They're not doing it for the glory. They're doing it because they care. And if you find a group of people that you can work with that wants to do this with you, once you find a ride or die, it's an incredible feeling.
Beautiful. And more kudos to you for having done the work, right? You already have done so much and you have a lot to look back at, and hopefully it's only going to get better.
Hopefully, you have to have a mission that you love for you to be able to withstand everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very true. That makes you resilient and makes you wanna get up in the middle of the night to defend your turf. Yeah. For my two last questions, one question that I ask all my guests, and this is a little bit of research that I've been doing myself, and I don't know why, but I'm interested in morning routines, rituals. Do you have one? And if so, do you care to share?
I'm not one of those people that writes out my thoughts or dreams or anything. I would say that my ritual is making sure that my dogs are fed.
That's a good one. Fair enough.
They're super chill, both of them, but it's really cute because one's a rescue and the other one I've had for a long time. And they're like different sizes and different
Yeah.
breeds and everything. But to see them that you are taking care of their needs, I think it brings me deep joy. And I think it's obviously something that parents experience. Obviously,
Mhm.
you wake up and take care of your baby's needs,
Yeah.
right? So it's great to not be so self-involved and think of myself first and my problems and have this one mission, which is caring for these other living things and
Yeah.
making sure that they're okay.
Yeah. Nurture and taking care of other things. Well,
Yes.
it's a lovely morning ritual. That's beautiful. And my last question, any reading? Is there anything, any book, or no, it doesn't even have to be a book, could be an article, could be a platform, anything that has inspired you on your journey that you would care to share with listeners and maybe for them to have a look at it. Maybe they're inspired by this interview and say, hey, I want to get into this. What would you recommend them to read?
So I discovered this book and I think a lot about it. It's not that deep I mean, it's one of those business books. The Art of Thinking Clearly. It's quite old, I think, now, but I keep thinking of it because so much of it was correct when
Mm.
you are in business and in tech. And the act of thinking clearly is just some things of like check in your bias of how not to believe people just because they have money, or how successful people, they can like hide their failures and portray success constantly because that's just how, all these things that make you question. So
Yeah.
super important to
Yeah.
not, in this era, to always question things. So the
Yeah.
act of thinking clearly is one. It's just, there's different scenarios and they're one page and I have it so easy to read, but nothing that deep. And then for women's health, I'm thinking Marina Garner's book, which is The Business of the Vagina. She's a great journalist. She's also a great friend. We had pop-up in San Francisco last year for doing women's health, showing biotech companies working in women's health. She came all the way from the UK to do a reading. We had the most people show up because I think it really touches a lot of women in the space. And it talks about the innovation that is lacking and where it can go. And she's the one that makes the analogy about the buggy cart and where women's health is. So I would recommend anybody wants to just learn from a business perspective and where the industry is. I would encourage to read that.
Beautiful recommendations. Thank you so much for your time, Laura Minquini. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about you and your great endeavors at Athena DAO. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you, Aldo. See you in 2 years.
You've listened to Pulse by Alpha Wire, produced by Natalie Piles and Amela Faisal, with great music, The Optimist, written by Holly Hamill, performed and produced by ALO. Episodes hosted weekly by me, Aldo de Pape.